Hey you! Welcome back once again to another episode of Pause Mode, where I take a break from all things PlayStation and dive into my other fanboy systems. The other day, while researching some information on the Dreamcast, a curious fact about the library jumped out at me while staring at a list of the American releases. Sega's final system was released at the crossroads of two generations, the 32-bit and the 64-bit eras. While gamers were able to purchase Final Fantasy VIII on the same day they got to their Day 1 Dreamcast, it was also less than a year before Sony's PlayStation 2 was coming out. If we fall back to the satellite collecting video, the premise of that concept is that you get all the games for one system and then simply collect the exclusive games on your other systems in that field. With the Dreamcast, however, the opposite is possible. On one system, you have access to PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, Nintendo 64, Capcom Arcade, Sega Arcade games with a small dash of Neo Geo and various other retro games to boot. Like a bizarre melting pot of eras and gaming decades, the Dreamcast's library is still one of the most robust, diverse, and quality-filled libraries available to consumers. The original concept for this episode was going to be a starter's buying guide and introduction to the system, where I rambled off what you would need to jump on the bandwagon hardware-wise and then choose a variety of games. While I'm still going to tackle the hardware side, a second revelation hit me. Most people will buy a game based on the recommendation of a friend. Now, I consider all of you amazing people friends, but really, let's be honest, there's only so much you can trust out of one person. Rather than verbalize my personal opinions alone, it was time to bring the community in on the gig as well. And here's how it worked. For 3 days, Game Rave Patreon members each chose their 5 games they would recommend to a friend to try out. Not the best 5 games, their own personal favorite 5 games. Once submissions were finished, results were tallied and a list of the top 5 games to recommend as a starting point were revealed. Funny enough, besides the runaway winner, we had a 5-way tie for places 2 through 6. Not one to throw away a game, I can gleefully present to you the first ever Patron's Choice Award, the top 6 games recommended to you to buy on the first run. First though, we're going to need some hardware. That part's easy. Grab yourself a Dreamcast system with 4 controllers and then 2 memory card VMU units. Besides being memory cards, the VMUs also allow for some games to download minigames onto them, sort of like a really basic old school Game Boy. There are other accessories to snag like a Game Shark, maracas, light guns, and the like, but none of our 6 games featured today need them, so we'll get to them later on. Our first entry selected by Patreon members is Crazy Taxi, where you can make some crazy money. An arcade conversion from Sega themselves, players get strapped into a, rambunctious passenger vehicle and must pick and deliver passengers across the map. In what modern gamers could joke is an Uber simulator, Crazy Taxi's insane speed, challenging city layouts, and over-the-top shortcuts is a perfect entry point into the arcade greatness that awaits the gamer. Rollerblading into the 5th spot on the list is Jet Set Radio! If making crazy money isn't your thing, how about skating around to hip-hop and taking over the city one spray can at a time? Choosing from one of several inline skaters and heading into Japan covering up all the rival graffiti gang marks. Playing like a trippy cartoon equivalent of Tony Hawk with a dash of Sonic the Hedgehog thrown in, Jet Set is one of the most interesting and original games you can snag for the system. To make things even sweeter for those looking to become the next great graffiti artist, the game allows for the creation of your own tag designs, including downloading other creations. While the latter will require a bit of creativity in the modern era, the former gives the game hours of new life as the player allows their creativity to soar. Sailing into the 4th place pick is the fan-favorite RPG Skies of Arcadia. While it sadly never found fame on the Dreamcast and later on the GameCube, Arcadia was probably the system's most iconic Japanese-style role-playing game. Leading crew of characters is Vice, the player's on-screen hero who must sail the air collecting loot and other characters to help stop the evil Valiant Empire from destroying the world. Taking players through the fictional universe of Arcadia, gamers will be able to fly Vice's airship in full 3D, and once grounded, explore the various towns and dungeons. While the battles, plot, and the gameplay could all easily fall into cliché JRPG territory, there's a charm to it that just can't be denied. Of all the role-playing games out there, this one was the most referenced as the RPG that even those who hate the genre could really enjoy. Thundering into 3rd place is Midway's Waterworld of Wonder, Hydro Thunder! Another arcade conversion to the Dreamcast, Hydro gives up the rubber tires for the splashy waves of the ocean. Taking control of some insanely fast watercraft, gamers must place first in various races that travel the maps of island paradises, stadiums, and more. Hydro isn't for the weak, however. In a single-player mode, the game can be soul-crushingly difficult, but there are plenty of unlocks to work for. If one ever gets sick of losing to the computer, there's always two-player modes so you can lose to your friends instead. Coming at the number 2 spot on our list is a game with a lot of personal memories for me, San Francisco Rush 2049. As per most of the games on this list, the arcade conversion came home to the Dreamcast and is just a phenomenal time for everyone involved. While there's no shortage of single-player tracks to be enjoyed, multiplayer is where the game truly shines. It's also where your third and fourth controllers that you just bought come into play. A rambunctious 4-player multiplayer mode is and was years ahead of its time when it came to fun. Each of the 4 players can access various weapons like landmines, bouncing shots, Gatling guns to destroy the other players, but it still has access to the crazy map antics like ramps and the like. The aforementioned memories from the game stem from when my Game Shark coworkers and I would play the 4-player battle mode after hours at work. The competitiveness, hilarious strategies, and survival tactics to avoid being killed, along with the laughter that ensued, was one of the best parts of that job. Even if you were to only buy 2 games from this list to start your Dreamcast journey, this and our number 1 pick would be enough to truly get the party started. Finally, we arrive at the number 1 game picked by Patreon members as the game to buy when you get your Dreamcast. Beyond a shadow of a doubt and the runaway choice, it's Soul Calibur. Namco's mind-blowing home conversion of the arcade game was a wake-up call to the next-gen gaming was actually here. Taking the source code that was essentially running off of a Tekken 3's engine, the Dreamcast version was given all new graphic styles, high-resolution visuals, loads of new details, and more. Like every other home version Namco has done, Namco added in a cornucopia of extra modes, weapons, features, options, and anything else they could cram onto the GD-ROM. Like their dominance in the 3D realm on the PlayStation, Namco's single fighting game release on the Dreamcast has forever held the hearts of gamers, and 20 years later, it's still being eternally retold. And there you have it, the 6 games our Patreon members would recommend to you if you haven't gotten into the Dreamcast yet. For those of you that do have and enjoy the system, list your top 5 games you would recommend in the comments section below, and let's all get the newcomers some great video game libraries going. Get the conversation started, and be sure to subscribe, and have a great weekend. If you're looking to get more out of the channel and site, check out the Patreon link at the end of the video, and join the fun. As always, I am Jason from GameRave.com, and I will see you in 2 weeks with more PlayStation goodness. It's chaos out there. Be kind.